Regardless of what happened on this particular day, on this particular track, to say it had been a good year would be a massive understatement. Yes, it had started off a bit rough with a heavy chorus of boos greeting her introduction at a meet in Los Angeles in January. But since then, win after win, PRs outpacing the injuries, which in her case was always a good thing and never guaranteed. She had set new American records in the 5,000 meters and 800 meters, and though she couldn't yet know it, would do the same in the 3,000 meters in a couple of weeks. She already held records in the 1,500 and 10,000. A year had passed since the incident that made her infamous and tarnished the shine of an astoundingly successful career that had begun before she had even hit puberty. But she was healthy today, and when she was healthy, she was pretty close to unstoppable. Life was good, and it was about to get even better. Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025, and on this day in 1985, Mary Decker-Slaney broke the women's world record in the mile, further cementing her place as the most accomplished American female middle distance runner of the 20th century. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and you are listening to Today in Running History. It's a shame that Mary Slaney, the name she uses today, is known by so many people primarily for the incident that made her notorious, especially because it is hard to deny that her gender played a role in the flack she received over it. Was she less than gracious toward Zola Budd following their collision on the track? Sure, she has said so herself. But she was an intense, supremely competitive world class athlete who had just gone through an incredibly frustrating and physically painful incident. And she had made up with Bud a month before our story today occurred. It's hard to imagine that a male athlete in similar circumstances would still, 40 years later, be best remembered for lashing out after an extremely tough loss. So anyone still thinking of Slaney only in terms of the fall should maybe regard this episode as sort of a palate cleanser. In the episode the other day about Usain Bolt, I talked about how sprinters are born and distance runners can be developed, at least somewhat, through hard work and proper training. Slaney is an example of what hard work can do, but she also came into this world with some spectacular genetic gifts. One of 4 children in her family, Mary Teresa Decker, was born in August 1958 in northern New Jersey. The year Mary turned 11, the Deckers moved across the country to Huntington Beach, California. Mary easily won her first race, and she kept on winning, setting an age group record in the 800 meters in 1971. She had the good fortune of coming of age at the dawn of Title IX when the relevance of women's athletics was just beginning to be recognized. Called Little Mary Decker for her diminutive size, she was the absolute definition of a prodigy. Throughout her career, her running form, at least from the knees up, was regarded as perfection. But she was a toe runner whose foot strike pattern contributed to nearly nonstop injuries throughout her career. Mary's intensely competitive nature sometimes led to overtraining, but it also kept her from allowing injuries to sideline her mentally. In 1972, Mary qualified for the U.S. Olympic team, but at 13 was too young to compete. It would be the first in a long line of scenarios to mar Mary's experience with the Olympics, the only stage where she never met her full potential. Mary turned 14 a few weeks before the Munich Olympics, certainly disappointed to not be there, but likely assuming she'd have plenty more chances in the years to come. While her peers obsessed over dating and grades and sang along to Three Dog Night and American Pie, Mary was running. At 15, she set her first world record, running an indoor mile in 4:41. At 16, after growing 6 inches in a year, she suffered a tibia fracture that threatened her entire future as a runner. She spent her last couple of weeks as a 17-year-old watching the Montreal Olympics on TV while recovering from the injuries that had kept her off another U.S. team. Her bio over the next quarter century never got less dizzying. Over the next decade, Mary cycled through the same highs and lows. She worked at Frank Shorter's running shop, Running for the University of Colorado, she won the indoor 400 meters. She was the AIAW cross country champion and women's 1,000-meter champion in the same year. She underwent surgery for compartment syndrome, and a few months later, she ran PRs in the 800 and 1,500 meters, then had another operation. Plantar fasciitis, shin splints, and stress fractures interspersed with a win after win at a broad range of distances. In 1980, Mary moved to Eugene to train. She won the Olympic trials, but because of the U.S. boycott, found herself sidelined for her third games in a row. She had a short marriage to a fellow runner. In 1982, she set 7 world records and won the Sullivan Award as the best amateur athlete in the United States. The next year, she won both the 1,500 and 3,000 meter in the World Championships in Helsinki, a feat called the Decker Double. She was the first female recipient of the Jesse Owens Award and was the Associate Press's Female Athlete of the Year in 1983. It's safe to say that by the time the 1984 Olympics rolled around, few American athletes had been through more to get there than Mary Decker. Nor were there many from whom more was expected. She entered the games holding the American record at every distance between 800 meters and 10,000 meters. And yet, after the fall that marked another disappointment and another injury, this time for her hip, Mary did what she had always done. She got up, dusted herself off, rehabbed her injury, and got back to work. She kicked off 1985 with a New Year's Day wedding to British thrower Richard Slaney, the fellow Olympian to whom she is still married today. Also in January, she set a world record in the 2,000 meters at the Sunkist Invitational, where the boos and cheers greeting her pre-race introduction were about even. Fast forward to August 21st, 1985, exactly 40 years ago today, and the Weltklasse meet in Zurich, Switzerland. Slaney was unbeaten outdoors coming into the meet, but had fallen short earlier in the month in her attempt to break the mile record held since September 1982 by Romanian Maritia Puica, who herself had claimed the record from Mary, and who won gold in the infamous Olympic 3,000-meter finals in 1984. Slaney would not fail on this day. When she crossed the finish line, Slaney's time was 4:16.71, soundly defeating Puica and Budd, who finished second and third respectively. It was the third time she had set the outdoor mile record, and in the grand scheme of her career, just another in many, many milestones. Pun intended. For better or worse, Mary Decker-Slaney's approach to training never wavered. Pushing herself to the absolute limit was the way she ran. Always. In 1986, Slaney gave birth to her only child, daughter Ashley, and was back to running 6 days later. Even getting her to agree to that much time off was considered a win by her doctor. She failed to medal in the 1988 Olympics, did not qualify in 1992, and faced the first doping controversy of her career in 1996 when at age 37 she competed in her final Olympics and failed to medal. At that point, Alberto Salazar had been her coach for 2 years. She claimed the test was inaccurate and fought the retroactive ban she received. She was cleared by the USATF and has never admitted to taking a banned substance, but the controversy shadowed her for the rest of the 90s. Her career, including all its highs and lows, continued until 1999 when a final surgery failed to put her in position to make the U.S. team bound for the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. Between 1972 and 1999, Slaney set 36 national records and 17 world records, made 4 Olympic teams, and became the only athlete to hold every U.S. record from 800 to 10,000 meters. Slaney won 11 national titles, was the first woman to break 4:20 in the outdoor mile, and the only American woman to ever hold the outdoor mile world record. She set the indoor mile world record 3 times, the last of which remained unbroken for 38 years until February of 2020. Slaney recently turned 67 and still lives with her husband in Eugene. In 2015, she told the Portland Tribune that she was still upset about the doping accusations, especially given how hard she had to train in order to beat competitors from countries where banned substances were the norm throughout most of her career. Scroll through the online running forums and you'll find that fans of the sport fall in two camps when it comes to Mary Decker-Slaney. Those who think she was standoffish and a crybaby and only has herself to blame for her many injuries and believe the doping allegations, and those who could talk for days about the beauty of her running form and the praise of her work ethic and believe that while bad luck kept her from the Olympic career she deserved, her overall record still makes her one of the all-time greats. It's all or nothing, just like Mary herself. And that is all for today. Thank you all for continuing to tune in. Please like this episode, slam that subscribe button, leave some comments, and then send this to everyone named Mary in your phone's contact list. Then join me tomorrow for a conversation with the one and only Dina Castor. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and this has been Today in Running History. She was absolutely, she was the absolute definition. Okay. I was actually kind of on a roll, not messing up too much. Okay. Plantar fasciitis. I did not go to medical school. Not that that has anything to do with any of this, because I can't speak normal English either. Okay. Shin splints. Plantar fasciitis. God dang it. Okay. Shin splints. All right, I'm going to start with plantar fasciitis, and then we'll say shin splints. In 1982, she set 7 world records and one, but she wasn't a marathoner. She ran 1 marathon to a fellow runner. I don't know why I put marathoner, because he was a marathoner, but she she ran like 1 marathon, I'm pretty sure. Okay, but had fallen short earlier. Welt classy. Should I even try to say that word? Welt classy, that's really hard. Classy. Okay. Only American woman to ever hold the mile world record. She set the indoor mile. Is that true? Hold on. Okay, she's the only one to set it to hold the outdoor mile world record. I need to add that because I was like, I swear there's like some in the indoor ones, and I was right, but that doesn't count. Okay.